Tonight, 2 teens in 2 provinces accused of plotting coordinated violent attacks at their schools.
That's a very scary situation to think what could have happened.
The disturbing plans allegedly forged online. What tipped off police? No charges for an Ontario homeowner who shot an intruder.
Congratulations for shooting this guy. Should have shot him a couple more times as far as I'm concerned.
The political debate over self-defense in your own home. Inadequate and risky. CBC News obtains an internal memo on the Prime Minister's current home, Rideau Cottage.
There is an urgency. Somebody needs to make a decision.
The deadline ticks closer to decide what to do about the decrepit 24 Sussex.
From CBC News, this is The National with Erica Johnson.
Thanks for joining us. Adrian is on assignment. There is relief tonight in 2 small Canadian communities thousands of kilometers apart after the RCMP says they stopped a coordinated plan to attack 2 schools. Police say a 15-year-old girl in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, and a 14-year-old boy in Rivers, Manitoba, were allegedly chatting online, plotting simultaneous violence at their local high schools. Both have been arrested, and while officers say the attack wasn't imminent, they did find plans and imitation weapons. The arrests come just over a month after the Tumbler Ridge mass shooting that left 8 dead, including 6 at a high school. And as Kayla Hounsell tells us, that's weighing heavily on the communities in Manitoba and Nova Scotia.
Students in the small western Manitoba community of Rivers say they're surprised and grateful to learn police have thwarted a possible attack on their school.
They made quick work of it. Luckily I didn't get anywhere closer to the school or inside.
Also relief in Bridgewater on Nova Scotia's South Shore.
That's a very scary situation to think what could have happened. So thank goodness for the police.
Police say 2 teens have been arrested after allegedly planning to harm students at their respective schools at the same time. The arrests just weeks after one of Canada's worst school shootings.
Coming after Tumbler Ridge, it becomes that much more real. And so everyone's basically just questioning how we got to this point.
The 14-year-old boy from Rivers and 15-year-old girl from Bridgewater were online and had been talking on Instagram and Discord since February. The FBI picked up on it and informed Interpol, which tipped off Canadian authorities. The student in Manitoba was arrested first on a school bus Monday morning.
It was the safest way for us to take him in custody prior to him attending school.
The RCMP says the 14-year-old has been charged with uttering threats. He was unarmed, but the Mounties later seized 2 guns owned by his relative. In Nova Scotia, police arrested the 15-year-old Tuesday and located handwritten plans and imitation weapons. The teen has been charged with conspiracy to murder and uttering threats to cause death. Local police say they don't believe the attacks being discussed were imminent, but they also say it was clear the accused had put some thought and planning into the idea.
They've been talking about it for a period of time, and there's actually some documentation that we were able to find in our search yesterday that makes it seem that it was a thought-out plan.
He says the teens were discussing a couple of actual dates in the next school year.
It's pretty tough, especially in smaller communities, to find a bunch of people who feel the same way you do or think about the same things or having the same kind of thoughts if they're dark. But if you get online, it's pretty easy to find 1,000 other people.
He says in this case, everything worked as it should, with multiple agencies working together to prevent violence. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Bridgewater, Nova Scotia.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is praising a man who fired a gun at masked intruders during a home invasion. Comments the opposition calls irresponsible. Police say the homeowner faces no charges, but as Michelle Song shows us, it's all adding to the debate about self-defense.
On a quiet suburban street in Vaughan, Ontario, 3 masked men are seen breaking into a home, later fleeing, after police say the homeowner fired his gun in self-defense.
Neighbors scared and me scared.
A suspect, now identified as Tristan Casanova Allman, was dropped off at a hospital with a gunshot wound and faces several charges, including robbery with a firearm, but no charges were laid against the homeowner.
Just through the investigation and through that evidence, we were able to determine that no charges would be laid against him.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford applauded that assessment, suggesting the homeowner could have gone further.
Congratulations for shooting this guy. Should have shot him a couple more times as far as I'm concerned.
The opposition leader raised concerns over the seeming support for violence.
For him to be telling people to shoot each other rather than fixing the problems, to me, it seems like more nonsense.
If you break into someone's home...
The Premier has supported the use of self-defense in the past. Last year, a man in Lindsay, Ontario, was charged with assaulting an alleged intruder who broke into his apartment armed with a crossbow. Those charges were later dropped, but the case sparked a national debate about self-defense.
It is really refreshing to see police do some actual investigating in a case like this rather than just arresting.
This criminal defense lawyer says self-defense is allowed, but the force used must be reasonable.
It's very simple in Canada, despite how complex it can be when it gets to court, which is you can use as much force as is necessary to match or respond the threat to you and or a loved one.
Police say charges are determined on a case-by-case basis and warn residents can still be held liable, even in their own homes. Michelle Song, CBC News, Vaughan, Ontario.
The Bank of Canada left its key interest rate unchanged today at 2.25%. But as Nisha Patel shows us, the announcement came with a warning of economic uncertainty due to the U.S.-Iran war.
After war in the Middle East suddenly sent oil prices skyrocketing, pumping up the price of gas more than 30 cents a litre, there's a fresh risk for Canada's economy: higher inflation.
This is an economic shock. How big it is going to depend a lot on how long it lasts, whether it widens, how disruptive it is.
Still, the Bank of Canada is holding steady, keeping the key interest rate unchanged at 2.25% for now.
If energy prices stay high and we start to see evidence that it is generalizing and becoming more persistent, we can raise the policy interest rate to cool inflation.
Inflation is starting to hit Thumb & Greywall's BC Trucking Company as diesel jumps to its highest level in 4 years.
The cost is in the thousands, and you multiply that by every single vehicle that we're operating. Again, it's a major cost.
That cost could get passed on to goods transported by truck.
Everyone tries to absorb it. Nobody wants to increase the charges right away, but then again, there's a point where you have to.
The other big risk for the Bank of Canada, a weak economy. Damaged by the trade war, growth has slowed and the job market has softened, and Canadians are feeling squeezed.
Everything is unaffordable.
Cost of living overall is just very high. Salaries haven't really kept up.
So far, the country has technically dodged a recession, though if the economy weakens further, the bank may need to lean on interest rate cuts.
This is the worst time in the world to be a central banker anywhere, because you're fighting two separate fires with one bucket of water. One is rising unemployment and one is rising prices. So it's very difficult to know where to aim that bucket of water.
There's no way to tell when this oil shock will end. With so much uncertainty on the horizon, the Bank of Canada says it's making its interest rate decisions one meeting at a time. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's population declined last year, a first for the country since Confederation. The population stood at more than 41 million on January 1st of this year, according to a Statistics Canada estimate. That includes citizens, landed immigrants, and non-permanent residents. But that's down about 102,000 people from January 1st of 2025. The change is mainly due to fewer non-permanent residents, including those on work or study permits and asylum seekers. In Montreal, the owner of a heritage building is facing 7 counts of manslaughter tonight, 3 years after flames tore through his property, killing 7 people. Sarah Levitt now with reaction to the charges as questions linger about who set the fire.
This shell of a building looms large, held up by beams still hollowed out and charred, a stark reminder of the fire and the lives lost. 3 years ago, a fire broke out at this heritage building in Old Montreal, killing 7. 9 were injured, escaping the flames. Now the building's owner, Emile Benamor, is facing criminal charges, including 7 counts of manslaughter and 8 counts of criminal negligence causing bodily harm. He is not accused of setting the fire.
It's really related to the state of the building and the management of the building, having an impact on the spread and the deaths and wounded.
Immediately after the fire, serious questions were raised about the 100-year-old building. Previous tenants described rooms without windows or windows that couldn't be opened, possible non-functioning smoke detectors, and past fire safety violations. Many in the building when the fire broke out were staying in illegal Airbnbs.
We do miss her each and every day.
Safar Mahmoud lost his daughter Dania Safar in the fire. The 32-year-old was visiting Montreal with her friend Sanya Khan. Mahmoud's glad to see charges laid.
It was happy to see that at least something has happened. The wheel of justice has started moving.
After a brief court appearance via video conference, Benamor was released with conditions. His lawyer simply saying,
3 years after, it's a surprise.
Some of the victims' families say they're left wondering, will the people or person who set the fire ever be caught? Police say accelerants found on the scene mean the fire was deliberate, but say nothing more than their investigation is ongoing. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
Crown prosecutors have stayed charges against cult leader Romana Didelot, whose followers occupied a decommissioned school near Regina. Didelot, who calls herself the Queen of Canada, had been accused of failing to comply with an undertaking and intimidation. The charges were linked to a police raid last September. Residents say members harassed and threatened them, and the school was later closed over health concerns, including reports of open sewage. In the Middle East, attacks on key energy infrastructure are escalating, prompting fears the global oil and gas crunch could get even worse. This after airstrikes killed another key Iranian security official. Sasha Petrusik shows us the rising stakes.
Iranians protest and mourn almost 1,500 killed, say Iranian officials, since this war began. The latest assassination, Iran's intelligence minister, Esmail Khatib, eliminated overnight, says Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz. Everyone is a target, he says. This the day after Israel killed 2 other top Iranian leaders. Still, a U.S. congressional committee heard Iran's government is not on the verge of falling.
The IC assesses the regime in Iran appears to be intact but largely degraded due to attacks on its leadership and military capabilities.
Another challenge for the U.S. administration, say experts.
The administration, the Trump administration, was betting on leadership decapitation. That's not what we've seen. We've seen this bog down now.
Indeed, Iranian missiles continued to target Israel, killing 2 people near Tel Aviv. And in a sharp escalation, new strikes hit Iran's energy infrastructure, including the huge Pars natural gas fields. They're the world's largest, jointly used by Qatar, who also blames Israel. Until now, the U.S. and Israel have largely spared these facilities, trying to avoid further increases in world energy prices. Those rose again after the Pars attack. Iran promised quick retaliation against energy infrastructure in nearby Gulf countries. As for the Strait of Hormuz, the critical oil and gas waterway, it remains largely closed and may not return to normal.
In my view, we need to design new arrangements for the Strait of Hormuz and the way ships pass through it in the future. After the war,
suggesting energy supply will remain a key Iranian weapon. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
As you saw in Sasha's report, while top U.S. intelligence officials weighed in on Iran's leadership, they dodged questions about a key U.S. justification for the war, that Iran posed an imminent threat. But as Katie Nicholson explains, not all Trump appointees agree.
It was supposed to be a briefing on worldwide threats.
Good morning. I call this hearing to order.
But most of the questions zeroed in on the war in the Middle East.
Were you asked to brief on whether Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz?
I'm not going to comment on what the president did or didn't ask me on any topic.
What about the comments the president made that thought that he was surprised again, reports that Iran struck the adjacent Gulf states?
Again, I'm not aware of those remarks.
Donald Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was pressed repeatedly on one of the administration's key justifications for the war, that Iran posed an imminent threat, despite military strikes in June that Trump claimed obliterated Iran's nuclear program.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
This now former intelligence official decidedly more candid.
Was Iran on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon?
No, they weren't, 3 weeks ago when this started, and they weren't in June either.
National counterterrorism head Joe Kent, a Trump appointee, publicly resigned Tuesday. In part, he says, because he didn't believe Iran posed an imminent threat. Now sitting down with conservative commentator Tucker Carlson.
You're saying that there was no intelligence that you saw with the highest level clearance, obviously involved in this conversation, that showed an imminent threat from Iran to the United States? None.
No.
Kent elaborated on that answer, saying there was no evidence that the Iranians were going to launch what he called a big sneak attack or strike an American base. But it's important to remember that on Tuesday, White House officials disputed Kent's claims that there was no imminent threat and even called Kent a leaker.
And Katie, what more did Kent say about his criticisms of the war?
Yeah, he said that going after the Ayatollah was the last thing that they should have done, that it would rally people around the regime. And he noted that the Ayatollah's replacement would be more of a hardliner. And he also told Carlson that there was no robust debate before going into this conflict like there was before they launched their operation back in June.
All right, thanks for that. Katie Nicholson reporting in Washington tonight. The federal government says it will spend up to $1.4 billion to ensure self-sufficiency in military ammunition.
Because the ability to produce our own ammunition, it's not optional, it's essential.
This Ontario company will get about $300 million towards a new facility to produce casings for artillery projectiles. As with other recent announcements, this gets Canada closer to its NATO commitment on defense spending. Alberta is moving to restrict access for medical assistance in dying. New legislation says only people likely to die of natural causes within a year would be eligible. Julia Wong brings us the details and the reaction.
Alberta could soon be the first province in Canada to limit access to medical assistance in dying, also known as MAID.
This legislation will ensure that medical assistance in dying is used only as an option of last resort. Hope should always be easier to access than death.
If passed, Albertans would only be able to access MAID if death is reasonably foreseeable within 12 months. It would be banned for those whose sole condition is a mental illness, something not currently allowed in Canada, but is being studied by Parliament. Practitioners won't be able to initiate conversations about MAID with a patient, and there would be restrictions on information displayed in healthcare facilities. The province calls the measures safeguards, coming before Ottawa could expand eligibility around mental health.
These escalating factors put the safety and well-being of vulnerable individuals at far too grave a risk. So our government is acting now.
Some mental health and disability advocates are relieved.
Well, we absolutely welcome the introduction of this bill. It is going to save lives. This is important legislation that recognizes their equal worth and value.
But others argue the proposed measures are too restrictive. Tanya Stilson's father, John, suffered for years from chronic debilitating pain. In 2023, he accessed MAID.
My dad didn't want to die. He just didn't want to continue to live and decline the way life was unfolding for him.
She says the implications for Albertans are huge.
Their choice is restricted. And for that to be removed for them is just completely illogical, is what my dad would say.
MAID advocates say Bill 18 is draconian.
People who are in this position of wanting MAID
They are suffering intolerably and they want to end their lives. I feel that we should have compassion for those people and not make this option even harder than it already is.
The province says it is not invoking the notwithstanding clause, which allows governments to temporarily override charter rights, but it is prepared to defend the law in court if needed.
So, Julia, what's been the reaction from the federal government?
So before this bill was tabled, a spokesperson for the federal justice minister says provinces have jurisdiction over healthcare delivery and can develop their own frameworks around MAID. But one health policy professor we spoke to says this will likely end up in court, no matter what, whether it's Ottawa or MAID advocates.
Okay, thanks for this. Julia Wong in Edmonton tonight. An internal memo obtained by CBC News says the current residence of the Prime Minister isn't fit for a Canadian leader.
It was set to be a temporary solution, and now it's creating major security issues.
What the government is considering for the Prime Minister's official residence. Next. Plus, should lobster boils be banned?
They're as sentient or as conscious as, the dog in your room, I suppose.
The debate over how much pain they really feel. And later, Field of Dreams in a time of turmoil.
And for the first time ever, Venezuela is a World Baseball Classic champion.
Venezuelans celebrate a big win over the U.S. We're back in 2.
Don't kill us, bruh.
The RCMP has released video as a cautionary tale showing a 16-year-old speeding while trying to evade police in BC's Fraser Valley last summer. He was driving his stepmother's car on the Trans-Canada Highway before crashing into a dump truck. The teen and 2 passengers weren't hurt. He was found guilty of various driving offenses and had his learner's license suspended.
The right side is also down. Copy that.
A long-awaited spacewalk went ahead at the International Space Station today. 2 NASA astronauts were preparing for the installation of new solar power sources. Back in January, the spacewalk had to be canceled after an astronaut experienced a medical issue. An internal memo obtained by CBC News says the Prime Minister's current home is not fit for the leader of Canada. Rideau Cottage was always a temporary measure after the official residence at 24 Sussex Drive was declared uninhabitable. Ashley Burke shows us the pressure for a final decision.
For more than a decade, Canadian prime ministers have called Rideau Cottage home and welcomed world leaders inside. CBC News has now obtained a government memo calling the house inadequate for a prime minister's needs.
It was set to be a temporary solution, and now it's creating major security issues.
The memo sent to Canada's top public servant, Michael Sabia, this past summer says the house is small, doesn't have enough functional space, and, quote, Rideau Cottage's proximity to the Governor General's residence and the surrounding residential neighborhood increases security risk.
There needs to be a setback distance from roads for the official residence.
Successive governments let the Prime Minister's official residence at 24 Sussex Drive deteriorate to the point where it had to be gutted in recent years to strip out mold, asbestos, and dead rodents.
I think it's a little embarrassing for Canada, frankly, that we don't have an official residence for our Prime Minister.
Now a source tells CBC News the Carney government wants to make a decision about the fate of 24 Sussex in the coming months.
There is an urgency. Somebody needs to make a decision.
In one of his final acts in power, Justin Trudeau set a January deadline for the government to create an advisory panel made up of former prime ministers to recommend solutions. The government won't say if that's happening, but the RCMP says its experts have looked at the options under consideration and recommended how to boost security.
Surveillance systems, counter-drone mechanisms, all those pieces are advice that we would provide.
Last year, CBC reported the government was considering 3 options: building a new or heavily renovated complex at 24 Sussex, upgrading Rideau Cottage, or building elsewhere.
The government will only say the work is ongoing and no final decisions have been made. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
As the war in the Middle East chokes off the world's oil supply, the U.S. has targeted a vital Iranian island and threatened to hit its oil facilities.
That would erase about 2 to 2.5 million barrels of production from the global economy.
Why Kharg Island is so crucial to Iran and the global economy. Plus, as the UK moves to ban boiling lobsters, the debate over how to kill them is heating up in Canada.
I don't think they really demonstrated that the animal was experiencing suffering.
Why scientists are divided over what lobsters feel and don't. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
Awesome unit, head first, lights out.
England weighs in to a contentious animal cruelty debate, banning the boiling of live lobsters.
In this case, the academic community seems really split.
What the crustacean controversy could mean for Canada's multi-billion-dollar seafood industry. But first.
As you know, we attacked Kharg Island and knocked it literally, destroyed everything on the island.
The U.S. takes aim at a tiny coral island off the coast of Iran, destroying infrastructure and threatening to go further. But why the U.S. interest in tiny Kharg Island? As Ashley Fraser tells us, it's both critical to Iran and the global economy.
Kharg Island. Could this small island be the key to who wins the war? It's located about 26 kilometers off the coast of Iran, and despite its size, around 8 to 9 kilometers long, it's a critical hub for the country's energy industry. It handles the vast majority of Iran's oil exports. In fact, 90% of crude oil is taken from Iran through pipes to this terminal. And its deep waters around the island make it easier for large tankers that can transport up to 85 million gallons of oil. The tankers then travel down the Gulf and out of the Strait of Hormuz to deliver a majority of the oil to China. So what role is this small island playing in the war? On Friday, Trump announced the US had targeted military facilities on the island, but left oil infrastructure untouched. But just this week, he said oil could be a target.
I call it the pipes. We left the pipes. We didn't want to do that, but that we will do that. We can do that on 5 minutes notice. It'll be over.
But destroying that is considered incredibly high risk.
Where many countries try to diversify where they ship and do things from, Iran has got that single point.
Frank Galgano is a retired U.S. Army lieutenant colonel and military geography professor.
Mainly because of the sort of configuration of the country and the coastline and everything else that's going on. Sort of a unique geographical situation for them.
Kharg Island is essentially the main artery to get Iran's oil from the mainland to the international market.
Amir Hanjani is a U.S. foreign policy expert. He says if Trump does target the oil infrastructure, it would wipe out Iran's entire energy economy.
That would erase about 2 to 2.5 million barrels of production from the global economy.
And the price of oil, already high due to the blockage in the Strait of Hormuz, would continue to rise.
We'd be in a sort of a nightmare scenario of oil between $150 to $200 a barrel.
Now on Tuesday, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham urged Trump to take the island.
100% of that revenue generating capabilities on a single island. Mr. President, take Kharg Island. This war is over.
But is that true?
You know, I would call it one of the ultimate bargaining chips against them if we really want to play hardball.
Galgano says, in theory, that move could lead to an end to the war.
You think of strategic terrain that the enemy has to hold in order to win, or you have to take in order to win. I would identify Kharg Island as one of those places.
But it wouldn't happen overnight and would inherently require troops on the ground.
They're not just going to let us take the island. If we were to take it and hold it, our soldiers would be subject to attacks as well. We better be prepared to accept the casualties that are going to come with it.
And Hanjani agrees that a takeover could come at a significant price.
What you'll see Iran probably do is hammer Kharg Island and try and dislodge the Marines or the U.S. forces from it. But at the same time, as they're doing that, also launching all sorts of drone and missile strikes to energy facilities all over the Persian Gulf.
Essentially escalating the war.
The U.S. And the global economy would be fighting a two-front war. You know, a fight to hold Kharg and retain it, but also to make sure that the global economy is shielded from all the damage that Iran's going to be doing.
Now to Iran's blockage of the Strait of Hormuz. How does it affect the cost of energy here in oil-rich Canada? Andrew Chang, host of About That, breaks it down.
How does an oil blockage halfway around the world in the Middle East affect the price of gas here in Canada so quickly? Like, almost none of the oil that tankers carry through this tiny little waterway that Iran has blocked even comes to Canada. The vast majority goes to Asia. And yet, gas prices here up and up and up. What is that invisible string that connects the two things?
Iran continues to threaten to strike any ship that travels through the crucial strait.
What this does is drives up the cost of oil and ultimately the price that people pay at the pump.
There are at least dozens of tankers waiting to enter the Strait of Hormuz, and there are literally hundreds of ships inside the Persian Gulf trying to get oil out of that area.
Those ships, they represent bits and pieces of a much larger machine that can move oil from basically any country to any country. So the global oil market is a bit like a swimming pool. Whether oil is pumped into the pool by Canada, the US, or Saudi Arabia, it's all going into the same place, onto the same market. And countries around the world draw from this same place, this same market as well. That's the global supply of oil. But let's say one giant pipe suddenly gets blocked, like oil tankers unable to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The water level for everybody drops. And that makes the value of that commodity, oil in this case, go up.
A major supply disruption anywhere translates into a price increase everywhere.
As for why that price increases so quickly, gas stations, they're not charging you what they paid for the gas you're pumping. They're charging you for what it'll cost them to replace the gas you're pumping.
And the CAA says today's average gas price in Canada is $1.66. That is up nearly 40 cents a litre from this time last month, an increase of 29%. Coming up, controversy boils over as another European country turns up the heat on an age-old crustacean cooking debate.
These animals not only centrally feel pain, but they actually centrally process the reaction to avoid pain in future.
Do lobsters have feelings? Tom Murphy with that debate next. A growing number of countries outlaw the boiling of live lobsters, turning up the heat on a long simmering debate.
They're as sentient or as conscious as, the dog in your room, I suppose.
But not everyone agrees that lobsters have feelings.
I don't think they really demonstrated that the animal was experiencing suffering.
Tom Murphy breaks down the crustacean compassion divide and what it could mean for Canada's multi-billion-dollar seafood industry.
Pardon the wordplay, the temperature is really getting turned up on the old lobster boil debate.
Awesome unit, head first, lights out.
Because England says it's not fooling around.
Across the Atlantic, the nervous systems of lobsters and other invertebrates are at the center of a bill that is making its way through Parliament.
I had no idea that people still did that.
It believes the science is in. Lobsters are sentient animals. In other words, what's practically a bug on the bottom of the ocean has feelings.
Larry. Thanks for all the free steam. Sucker.
Yes, they say the cartoons sort of have it right.
They're as sentient or as conscious as, the dog in your room, I suppose.
That's right, emotion. But not everyone is convinced.
I don't think they really demonstrated that the animal was experiencing suffering.
So what is happening behind those beady little eyes? And what, if anything, should a multi-billion-dollar seafood industry in Canada do about it?
A lobster goes for a walk, dancing effortlessly among the boulders.
Lobsters are crustaceans, decapods, related to the insect family. Never known for their brains, 10,000 metric tons of them are plucked from our waters and shipped worldwide each year. But UK legislation will now mean people in England will not be allowed to boil them alive, reigniting a debate many thought was, well, dead.
I think that there's been a change in science.
Veterinarian and animal rights activist Ben Sturgeon is with Crustacean Compassion in the UK.
And what we do know is in the last 10 years, there's been good recognition of sentience in invertebrate animals. People know about octopus, and decapods are now equally falling into that space. There's been a lot of research done on the ability of decapods to feel pain.
Part of that change in science, evidence about how lobsters respond to what we think of as a painful situation, like boiling.
They actually respond to them very similarly to terrestrial mammals. So these animals not only centrally feel pain, but they actually centrally process the reaction to avoid pain in future.
But that flinching when they go in the pot doesn't prove a reaction to pain.
It hasn't changed my thoughts on this.
Says Professor Emeritus Shelley Adamo at Dalhousie University, whose studies on insects concluded it's unlikely lobsters do feel pain.
What I see when I read the information on the lobsters that was in that report, it made me think of mimicking behavior, that the lobsters have behavior that looks like it would be something in pain if it were us, but that doesn't mean the lobsters are in pain.
And then there's the whole size argument.
You have the physique of Atlas.
Thanks, I work out.
As in brain size. Did you know that a lobster actually has more than a dozen mini brains along its body? Impressive. But consider a mere mosquito has more than twice as many neurons. So how much can really be happening in the lobster brain? And if they do feel pain, where's the proof they have the emotional brain power to feel suffering?
I'm just not confident that it is going to also be investing a big chunk of its neural resources for an emotional experience. In mammals, there are particular circuits in the brain that are important for us having that experience. And they're very complicated, they're very big, and there's just no equivalent of them in these other animals.
I don't know if we want to go there, but based on brain size, some people might ask, shouldn't we be more concerned about mosquitoes than lobsters?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Tom. I think some really interesting questions. We can't base pain or sensation or consciousness on numbers of neurons. I may have a bigger brain than you. That means I've got more neurons than you. Does that mean I feel more than you?
And on it goes.
In this case, the academic community seems really split.
All of this renewed debate about lobster pain has the lobster industry feeling a little trapped, says Chris Fiscato of the Nova Scotia Seafood Alliance.
And really it is highly concerning because again what we have is an academic background that says this is not a problem, and yet someone has decided to make a law stating that it is. And that disconnect is really hard to swallow.
And what is the best way to kill a lobster? Some say a knife to the head. Others say an electrical shocking using an expensive gadget like this. The lack of clarity on best practice adds to the industry's frustration.
One of the pieces that we are somewhat concerned with is that the law was put in place without the supporting regulations to tell the consumer how they should do it. So they were told, you can't kill a lobster this way, but we're not going to tell you how to do it. We'll have some loose recommendations. So until those regulations actually come through, we're not going to know what the full impact is going to be on the consumer at the end of the day.
The UK, a relatively small but growing market for Canada's live lobster, is joining others like Norway, Switzerland, Australia, and New Zealand with the ban. The Canadian lobster industry just hopes that's as far as it creeps.
And that English ban on the boiling of live lobsters, it's set to come into effect by 2030. While Canada tries to figure out how to regulate driverless vehicles, robotaxis are already a reality in some Chinese cities. While reporting in Shanghai this month, our Lisa Sheng and Chris Brown hailed a cab for the full autonomous experience.
I'm Lisa Sheng in Shanghai, and today me and the CBC crew are going to do something a little bit different. We're going to take a ride in a robotaxi.
There's sensors up on top, radar that actually tracks what's in front of you.
You can contact us by tapping the assist button.
Start the ride.
We're about to start.
Oh my gosh. So in an emergency, you can press all over.
So it is a strange sensation. You know, it's one thing to be in the back of a taxi, but when there's no driver, the wheel just turns on its own, and we just went around a car that was, you know, its rear was stuck out, and we just very easily went around it. We're probably also going just below the speed limit too.
55 kilometers an hour, it says. 58 now, 50, we're speeding up.
Right, so there's no actual difference in the ride in the sense that you wouldn't necessarily know, like if your eyes were closed, for example, that there wasn't a driver there. It feels the same.
It feels the same, but psychologically, Chris.
Yeah, it is strange. So the whole idea behind this is that this is supposed to create better cities, right? It's supposed to mean that fewer cars on the road because these are just constantly in motion. You don't have to deal with parking and so forth, and they're also programmed to be safer than people.
Yep, to avoid kind of those, you know, if you're sleepy, to avoid human error, I guess. So these taxis are only found in specific areas of a city, and you can't catch them everywhere.
Look, sorry to interrupt. There's a man with a child in a stroller, and the car slowed right down about 30 or 40 feet in front of it. So it clearly saw that coming and anticipated it.
So they are found in several U.S. cities already, like San Francisco. So they are in the U.S., but there's a lot of regulatory issues to be worked through in Canada, so they're not there yet. But we've parked. Okay, we're getting out. No driver to thank, but thanks, taxi.
After their ride, Lisa and Chris noted one more advantage of the robotaxi: no tip is necessary. Coming up, Venezuelans celebrate their country's first World Baseball Classic title.
What happened yesterday was history.
What their victory means to the country, next in our moment. These are some of the thousands of fans in Caracas, Venezuela last night after their country beat the U.S. to claim their first World Baseball Classic title. Venezuelans have been celebrating the 3-2 win. The country even declared today as a national day of joy to mark the historic victory. Their triumphant game makes our moment.
For the first time ever, Venezuela is a World Baseball Classic champion.
What happened yesterday was history. They have never won. We're like showing to everybody we're like the best. I'm not gonna lie, we were so scared at the beginning. There's like some amazing US players. The whole game was stressful. When Suarez did a hit, that was a really remarkable moment. The last pitch that the guy did was like essential. Strikeout, that's it, done. I just wanted to cry, I wanted to laugh, I wanted to like yell. Majority of my family are in Venezuela. They declare today as a national day. Nobody's gonna work today. Since you're a little in Venezuela, baseball is like something huge. Every grandma is always expecting your son to like become a baseball player. Everybody dreams for this. This winning, especially, just giving hope to all those children and everybody that wants to like do that for life. Venezuela is passing through like a lot of stuff. This is just hope for the people.
Pretty sure they enjoyed that national holiday today. And if one of the Venezuelan team players looked familiar, he's also a Toronto Blue Jays, Andres Jimenez. So there you go. Canada did make it to the quarterfinals of the tournament, but we were knocked out by the U.S. From all of us at the National, thank you for being with us. I'm Erica Johnson in Vancouver. Take care.